Welcome back, guests and listeners of the Tron podcast, The Randomness of Nothing. This is your host, Rashad Woods, and today I have a very special guest today, the very important topic of mental health and the development of young boys. She has over 50 years of practice and does a wonderful job in her state of Maryland to connect with clients and people from all various backgrounds. Dr. Gloria Vanderhorst, thank you so much.
Well, I'm happy to be here, Rashad. I'm very excited to talk to you about the development of boys and men, and particularly because you have kind of your own history of a very healthy developmental family. So this will
Thank you.
be interesting and very exciting.
It is, having two great parents that helped raise me and my brother is something that, ultimately you don't realize, until you get older how valuable that is, because not everybody has that luxury, so to speak of. But as you grow older, you start to really see the true meaning of what it meant to actually have that, nurturing environment. And so I'm appreciative of your time of this very sensitive topic.
Well, after this, you are going to want to appreciate your parents even more.
Thank you.
Because it takes great parents to really facilitate positive emotional development in our boys.
Yeah.
Because boys come into the world with a very different emotional makeup than girls. You would think we're both human.
Of course.
Right? So that, we should have kind of very similar emotional makeup, but we don't. And in fact, there are more miscarriages of males than females for the very reason. Boys are more fragile.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that shocking?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of shocking because you have to kind of, the way that the American image of males have been, we always think of like John Wayne or Rambo, very masculine,
strong, powerful, successful, right?
Question, since
you guys are fragile as infants.
Yeah, that's kind of a rough one to kind of stomach right now.
Well, it is true. In utero, males are more fragile. And so, as a newborn infant, males are more fragile.
Oh,
and
wow.
They come into the world with a broader range of emotional expression than females do. And there's a mismatch then between mothers or female caretakers and the expressiveness of a boy. So, as human beings, the only survival mechanism we have in infancy is emotion.
Correct.
Right? Infants read emotion perfectly. That's their survival mechanism.
It's amazing.
I tell people if you want to start a business, right, bring the people together that you're considering working with and then get a baby.
Jeez.
Yeah, and pass a baby around the room. Baby will read the emotional trustworthiness of each of these people perfectly.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. So like the kid that cringes at like the particular employee may be reading that correctly the entire time.
Right? Oh yeah.
Wow.
Perfect.
That's amazing.
Infants read safety and trustworthy perfectly. They have to survive.
That's the only way they can actually get by.
But boys do come into the world with a broader range of emotional expression. So they can be more intense on the positive end and more intense on the negative end, but they interact most of the time with females. That's changing, right? There are more men staying home, raising kids.
For sure.
And that's a real positive because they will have a very different emotional relationship dynamic. But when a boy goes high, intense with real excitement, mother doesn't do this intentionally. She just does this naturally, right? She'll back up a little bit.
For sure.
Or, frown or be worried or turn her head to the side, right? She'll lose eye contact with this infant. Now, he's brilliant. He uses emotion for survival. And so he's going to learn automatically, oops, that wasn't safe.
Right?
I should not express that.
For sure.
Right? I got to tone myself down.
Got to meter it a bit.
true on the negative end, with irritation and sadness,
Hmm.
they narrow
Yeah,
their range of emotional expression because mother doesn't have access to that range.
that makes sense. That makes
Yeah,
sense. So
right.
it's a trial and error
It's
kind of a situation.
it
Right.
really is. It's definitely a trial and error situation. And then when they start to walk and get introduced to the culture,
Hmm.
we do the second thing to guys,
Oh, buddy.
and that is that we shame them for
The emotion.
expressing
Right.
crying, sadness,
Oh, for sure. For sure.
disappointment,
For
right?
sure.
We shame them.
Is
And
that an American thing or is that a worldwide thing? Have you is that's what I'm curious about.
that's a great question. I think it's a worldwide thing.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. I didn't
because
know.
if you well, if you look at men in other cultures, it may not be as extreme as it
Mhm,
is in America.
mhm.
Um, because men in other cultures do have access to a broader range of emotional expression, and they
Right.
do let themselves go into expressing sadness, right, and remorse and crying. And in American culture, that's really shamed.
Yeah, and it also even boils down to, like sometimes just some of our even our, I'm not certainly not getting political, but even some of our leave policies, right? Like some policies, they have year-long maternity leaves. This we clearly do not in this country, so there's not necessarily an emotional bonding that takes place when it
Right,
comes to parental,
right.
time with children, so those things can play a factor as well too, I'm sure.
Oh, most definitely, right? We give maternity leave. Now we're giving paternity leave. Didn't do that for a very, very long
Correct.
time. But I don't think they're equal.
Right. No. No.
Maybe they are, but I don't think they're
Yeah.
equal. And so we do this whole process
Mm.
of limiting the emotional range that a guy can experience.
Right.
And then when you hit puberty and you're supposed to be interested in developing relationships with people and
Right.
falling in love
Right.
with people, we expect that you will have access to those tender, loving,
Sure.
softer
They never got
feelings.
developed to begin with, right?
Right. Here, we killed them, right? They don't disappear,
Yeah.
all right? But we've definitely suppressed them.
Right.
And so, the stats say that the divorce rate is falling.
Mhm.
I will tell you that's a lie.
Oh,
And the
jeez.
reason, the reason it's a lie is that people are not getting married.
That is
They're
true.
living together,
That is
right?
true.
They're developing a family
Yeah.
together, but they're not doing the legal, let's go to the court and get married because they don't want to go through the divorce process
Right.
and the expense of that
Oh
and
my
the
goodness.
trauma
Of course.
of that. If they break up and they're not legally married, is
Right.
traumatic,
Right.
right? I'm not taking that away.
Right.
It's still going to be traumatic, but it isn't the 2, 3, 4 years of dealing with the legal
Correct.
system
For
in
sure.
order to accomplish this. So even though the stats say the divorce rate is dropping, that really is not a reflection of the dynamics between men and women
Right.
and the households that they've put together.
Got
It
it.
it really is true. We don't allow men to have full access to their emotions,
Mhm.
and we don't educate women either, right, to
Mhm.
facilitate access. They say they want a guy who's tender and
Oh
can
yeah.
go into those softer ranges, but they don't.
Well, our culture kind of mocks that guy, right? So like, it's a weird dynamic, right? So like, it's odd because the movies, like even I'll watch movies like and then I don't even gravitate towards the movies that are like where the guy is soft and tender. I mean, I'm a movie, but it's like, listen, man, I'd rather watch John Wick, right? I would, and it's not because because it's almost like too much, so to speak, right? It can get a little bit over the top, and I don't think film and TV sometimes does a really good job of what it's like to be a regular emotional man, because it usually swings on one extreme side of the pendulum for entertainment
Right.
purposes, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
As
Mhm.
opposed to just being somebody who's in charge, who can have a good cry and then, wake up and
Right.
take care of their job and take care of their business.
Right. So you would have not watched Her, that movie about the guy that falls in love with an AI
No,
character?
I've wanted to catch that movie. That had Joaquin Phoenix, right? Didn't that have
Yeah.
Joaquin? Yeah, I haven't seen that. I was really interested in that movie, actually. He's a great actor, but that kind of slipped under the radar a little bit. I'll be interested now because I think after this interview,
Yeah, maybe
I'll
you'll
open up the
dig it
spectrum.
out and watch it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Because at the end of the day, I think that I'm sure you've seen it in your profession for all the years. It leads to disease, it leads to violence,
Right.
it leads, we can joke and laugh about not getting your emotions
Right.
out, but that there's
Yeah,
a dark
this
side to
this
not doing
is
it.
deadly serious. It
It's
really is.
very
Our
serious.
jails are full of men,
Yes,
right? They
yes,
are packed full
right,
of men because we have robbed men of the capability of identifying
right,
their feeling states
right,
and then expressing them.
right,
And, you know,
right.
that's criminal.
It really is, and the other part about it is too is that it's for some reason it's okay to cry in sports, but it's not okay to cry in real life, right? Like, right. So
Right.
like
That's
if
right.
you win or lose, right? Like you're like, oh, that person was so passionate about winning or losing.
Right.
That's how much it mattered to them. Nobody laughed at Michael Jordan when he won the championship, but all of a sudden
Right.
when something happens to a guy in real life, all of a sudden it's like, well, just get over it. And it's like, wait,
Right.
wait, wait. And this was an emotionally
Right.
dramatic moment too.
Right, right. And it's just incredibly unhealthy. The
Mhm.
reason that men die younger than women is exactly that,
Mhm.
right? They have heart attacks, they get diabetes,
Right.
they have all kinds of problems with
Mhm.
their bodies because
Yeah,
their bodies are holding emotion, right? If we educated them
for sure.
from infancy through preschool to be able to express emotions
Yeah.
and have access and maintain access to that full range of emotions, we'd have a healthier society in the long run as
Do-
well.
I want to talk obviously how you first got into this field, but I think that in the last 5, 10 years, it's gotten a little. I don't know how much leap you can see in your profession, but from the outside looking in, it's made some progress where people are like, okay, this is a traumatically, long needed addressed issue, and you see
Right,
insurance starting to cover it. You start seeing companies that are being a little more sensitive. Unfortunately, they've had maybe violence that took place that realized that they had to have these things addressed, school shootings, and
right.
people are like, listen, this is a long rooted problem that has been neglected for quite some time. Have you seen like a turning of the pendulum, even if it's a little slow?
There is a shift, right? If you look at adolescent boys today,
Mm,
they do have more access to feeling states
yeah,
than their fathers had
right,
access
right.
to. And so there is a move in the right direction. But at the same time, for both boys and girls and the adolescent stage, there's a move in the wrong direction with cell phones,
Oh my gosh.
right?
Oh my gosh. I
Because
was going to bring that up actually.
kids sit next to each other. Each one of them has a phone. They're tapping on their phones, and you discover they're talking to each other.
Instead of actually, staring at the person having a full fledged
Instead of
conversation.
turning to each other, or something like, 90% of communication is nonverbal, right?
Yeah,
Like reading your body. Look, me, I use my hands,
yeah,
right? I'm
yeah.
tapping on a phone, I'm not using my hands, right? Facial expression, body movement,
Right. Of
communication
course.
takes place through all of your body,
Right.
not just tapping on a phone. And so,
No doubt.
even though boys are now more able to identify feelings and express feelings, if we keep going down this path of parallel communication, we're going to lose significant attachment
For sure.
experiences
For sure.
for our teenagers, soon to be adults.
Absolutely.
And that's going to have a dramatic impact on how the culture function. So, we already have guys who don't get access to the full range of emotions. And
Mhm.
then if I put you in a box where you neither face nor talk directly
Right.
to the person that you're supposed to be
They're not real.
engaged
They're not
with,
real.
not real.
They're not real.
No,
It's not a real person. You're not getting the full gamut of their facial expressions, their emotions. It's just a reply.
right.
It's an AI assisted chat box, so to speak, right?
Right,
And
right.
that's
And
what
actually that AI assistant is really becoming pretty invasive in the lives of both men and women
Mhm.
who are less social, more tend toward isolation. They
Right.
develop intimate relationships with an AI
Isn't
figure.
that crazy? Isn't
It's
that crazy?
insane.
Right. And they would much rather actually get, satisfaction from a text message than actually talking to a person.
That's
Right.
right.
Because, it's almost like a disconnect, right? Because then you don't get to have that full conversation, or
Mhm.
you can dictate more of the terms of, of a conversation as opposed to actually talking back and forth. You'll
Right.
find it's strange. You definitely, I mean, I got 3 daughters, and they don't know they've never been to a Blockbuster. You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh. Right.
you can get a movie. It's something small like that, like actually being able to actually go get a movie, find the
Right.
movie of your choice, make a concerted effort to get that movie, as opposed to just sitting on your couch on demanding it, right? Like, and just
Right.
calling it,
That's right.
But it's those little things that, ultimately, because that was the time where you and your family could have like a conversation in the car or walking to do something. Now you don't have to do that.
That's right. That's right. Plus, you'd talk to the clerk. You'd talk to other people who were
Yeah.
picking out movies.
Yeah.
Right. We are limiting our social interaction. We don't realize how much
I
we're
believe it.
doing that, but we
Right.
really are limiting our social interaction with these devices.
Yeah, it's pretty sad actually when you actually think
Hmm.
about it.
Hmm.
Can we talk about briefly how you got into this field of work? You've had 50
Oh
years.
yeah,
So
it
I
was
gotta know, like, I mean,
really
because
fun.
how did you start into this? Like, what was the lightning in a bottle moment that said, I'm gonna go into this field?
Going into this field was I was a math major in college,
Oh wow.
and in Indiana State, in
Okay.
Terre Haute, Indiana.
Okay. Wow.
Um, and my goal was to graduate in 3 years. I wanted to teach high school math,
That's amazing.
and I wanted to graduate in 3 years with a 4.0.
Jeez.
And I was on track to do that.
My first sentence agreed with yours. I just wanted to graduate. Straight up true.
Well,
That four, that wasn't happening. The 4.0 wasn't happening.
it's still a goal. It's still a goal, right? We all need goals in order to
Right.
motivate
Yeah.
ourselves. But calculus 2, we had a new professor,
Mhm.
actually straight out of Harvard.
Oh
She
wow.
faced the blackboard and wrote with her right hand, erased with her left. And I mean, she filled the blackboard.
Yeah.
Front blackboard, side blackboard, never turned around to the
Mm.
class, never interacted with the class. Everybody's totally lost.
Oh sure.
Right? We're
Sure.
teaching ourselves calculus too, and we're not doing a good job of it, right? So I ended up getting a D in calculus.
Oh.
Oh yeah, right?
Oof.
Straight to the heart. But I
Oof.
was so grateful that I didn't have to take it again. If I get an F, I have to take it again. So I passed, and I immediately flipped my major and my minor.
Wow.
It's just like fate said, "Nope, you're not gonna be in
Yeah.
math." My minor was psychology, and I
Yeah.
I took that because it was fun,
You did.
right? Because it was a break from the rigors of math.
It makes sense. It's funny how those small things can really actually, lead you to a path of how your career
That's
turns
right.
into. And
Yeah,
so
so it was meant to be. That's the direction that I needed to go in, and I've
wonderful.
loved it.
Did
I've
you find
absolutely loved it.
did you find early in your career that it was like, okay, like you're dealing with, I hate to say stereotypical, but like what you would hear, like the wife that's trying to keep the marriage together, the stressed out breadwinner. And then did you see like a changing of the clientele over your years of, or, I know you also work with athletes too, but did you see a particular, client base early on that suddenly began to evolve over the years of your practice?
Yeah, the reason I'm so focused on men and boys is that my practice started with preschool boys.
Yeah.
I had a friend who ran a preschool, and most preschools are run by women and taught
Right.
by women.
Yeah.
All right. So boys stand out in the preschool because they don't want to sit in the circle
No, for
and
sure.
listen to the story, right? They want to climb a tree and listen to the story. So if you had a tree in the
Yeah.
room,
Yeah.
they'd be perfectly happy and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
would listen to the story and remember every bit of it. And so I got referrals from many preschools in the area to take a look at these boys
Mhm.
uh, who were a little more active, maybe disruptive, because people would say, well, they must have attention deficit. Well,
Right.
they don't have attention deficit, they have boy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're being a boy.
Right. Shocker of the
But
year.
they educated me on what it was like to be a preschool boy and what was happening in terms of their own emotional expression and
Mhm.
their own emotional needs. And then their fathers started putting themselves on my calendar
Oh, wow.
because their fathers had had similar experiences,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah.
And the fathers who did have attention deficit at that time, they would not have been well treated or
Oh,
recognized
oh,
or received any services. They were just made fun of
for
or
sure.
yelled at home
For sure.
for not doing their homework. And
Yeah.
so I spent years with my calendar full of males, and they educated me.
Well, I have to imagine too that, in the years of your practice, I mean, that has to be very hard for a father. I mean, even I was born in '82, right? Number one, to say, that they didn't get the emotional support or that they're seeing a doctor because there's a little bit of shame in doing that. Like, there's nothing wrong with my son, so to speak. And then number two,
Right.
that's not how they were raised. Like, if you scrape and fell on your knee and you scraped it, the 10-second cry was, okay, son, get up. You
That's
know,
right. Yeah. Keep
I mean, like, and then after a while, the kid's crying long enough, the
dust
dad gets
yourself off and go back in.
right, right. Or then after a while, the dad's basically getting mad at the kid who's really hurt, right?
Right.
Like,
That's right. Hmm. Yeah,
it's
I tell people, go to a playground and watch the interaction and the difference between little girls and little boys. A
yeah,
little girl skins her knee, runs up to a parent,
mm,
and she gets picked up and then asked what happened. A little boy, same thing,
yeah,
same injury, right? Same degree of hurt
yeah.
and difficulty, runs up to a parent. He gets asked what happened.
Oh
If he
wow,
gives a good enough answer, he'll get comfort. If he doesn't give a good enough answer, he'll just turn around, go back in,
and that's
right?
where the
Go play
conditioning
with
begins.
everybody. Nothing wrong with you.
And
I mean, we
wow,
treat boys and girls so differently.
that's crazy. That's crazy. No,
It is crazy.
And I tell a funny story one time. My dad's passed away. God bless him. This certainly isn't a dig, but it was funny because I remember I was playing basketball. I got elbowed in the mouth, right? And I remember I
Uh-huh.
came home. I'm like, man, this really hurts, and he did, the
Right.
typical, dad thing, like, oh, you'll be okay. And so, a couple weeks passed, right? And I'm like, man, this tooth is killing me, like,
It's
starts
still
turning
hurts.
gray. It turns out I had to get a root canal on the tooth, right? Like the nerve died into it, right? So like I'm like, after a while, because I just kind of brushed it off. But then when I'm drinking something cold, like it hurts, the wind hits it,
It
it hurts.
hurts.
Right? Like it
Right.
was a total nightmare. So I come in kind of hat in hand, like, I'm like, man, sorry, this tooth is really, really, really killing me.
Really,
But,
really.
but even then, your conditioning wasn't to complain about that tooth, right?
That's right.
And then finally he's like, oh my gosh, man, like your tooth, like, let's get you to the dentist right away. But like my mind was, don't complain about that tooth.
That's right. That's right. And that starts so early
Yeah.
that, boys just are limited in
Hmm.
what the emotional expression will
Yeah.
be that's acceptable
Yeah.
for others.
Yeah. I
And
didn't.
so my hope is to educate
Mhm.
fathers so that they do a better job of interacting with their boys
That's amazing.
and facilitating, maintaining access to the full range of feelings. Because the truth is, those feelings don't disappear.
Right.
They're still up there, right? There's just a roadblock that
Yeah.
says you can't go down there. You
Yeah.
can't go looking for
Right.
that feeling,
Right.
right? Because you're a boy
Right.
and we won't let you go look for it, but it
Yeah.
is still there. You can find it. You
Yeah.
just need to have the barrier
Right.
removed so that you can gain full access to feeling states.
That's amazing. And I always think of, and there's so many different things I want to talk to you about, obviously, but I always think of like even like hip hop music, right? LL Cool J created "I Need Love" in 1987, right?
Right.
And he got clowned for it, and he was like, and now he said, I saw an interview one time, he was like, now all people do is make love songs. But he was like, I was the
That's
first,
right.
right? He was like, I was made fun of for making love songs, because like, oh, this is not what we are supposed
Yeah,
to do
this
with
is a
rap.
guy.
Right. I'm a guy. I'm not supposed to make. He was like, I just wanted to, like get in touch with my emotions. And he was like, and it's weird you say that because to your point, you know, it's you once somebody taps into it, a lot more people feel the way than you thought they did. Right.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I have a list of feeling words that I use in therapy because your brain has not lost access to any of those feelings.
Right.
And if you run down the names
Yeah.
of feelings, the feeling you're experiencing will just pop off the page,
Amazing.
right? So your brain knows you haven't lost access at all. Your
Yeah.
brain knows. It's just that through time and interaction with others, you've been told, don't go there,
Yes, for sure.
don't go there.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And I must confess I'm probably part of the that
You're
lineage as well
probably,
too.
of course you are.
This one,
So am I.
you
We
know.
all are, right? We've been socialized in this way.
Can we talk briefly about your books? It looks like so you have I thought the title of it was very funny. The one that's in process is Do Not Blank Up Fatherhood. So
Right.
how does that book come to fruition? Because it's kind of the same vein of what we've been talking about.
Well, the truth is, we have been studying, psychology has been studying men for decades.
Mhm.
All of this research is available, right? All of the truth about how a guy's brain is organized
Mhm.
and how we interact as a culture with men. The research is out there.
Mhm.
It's never been translated into really the popular literature to really help guys first understand themselves and
Mhm.
then be able to turn and understand their sons
Yeah.
and facilitate a different growth process in their sons.
Right.
So that's my hope, is that this book will help fathers to do a better job of
Mhm.
understanding the emotional character and needs of their sons, and that they'll do a deeper dive into their own emotional history, expand access to their own emotions, and
Mhm.
then be able to pass that on to their own sons
Do you?
and have a stronger bonding
Mhm.
relationship and a more transparent relationship so that with your tooth, right, you would have had permission to go back an hour later and say, this thing is killing me,
Yeah,
right? This thing is killing me.
I
I
think it was
need
about
help.
3 weeks. I mean, it was about 3 weeks of just like, man,
Yeah,
because you're trying to think like, no, it's not really that. Because, and to your point, like, it was like, okay, this thing will get better. This thing will get better. But it never was like, you never kind of came to the altar like, man, you know what, man, this thing is
right.
really, 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 really bugging me.
Right. And that's because socially, right, we
Yeah.
trained you not to complain,
Right.
right?
Right.
Not to report negatives,
Right.
right? You guys are supposed to be strong and competent and
Right.
successful,
Right.
aggressive and kind of
Yeah.
willing to do anything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how about if you see the athlete? Oh, yeah, it's so great that he played through, and he tore his ACL,
Right.
props to him. It's like, no, actually,
Which
that's
is incredibly painful.
right, right. And so, what I was really focusing on too was that I think we're a reactive society in a way because oftentimes, I remember being in high school, when Columbine happened, right? And
Right. Oh,
you know,
yeah.
you're looking right, and that's when that era of, you know, those horrible things really came to the forefront of like, oh my gosh, somebody's capable of this level of violence. And
Right.
then everybody would now say, hey, these kids really need, you know, mental health, and these, and how could parents miss these certain things. And so, you know, it always seems like when something bad happens, people need to get mental health treatment. How do you keep that at the forefront, that people need it all the time, instead of just when it doesn't necessarily even have to be a bad thing? Like, right. So you
Right.
could just need it just to say, hey, man, you know, this is my daily pick me up, get me through life kind of thing, too.
Yeah, just basically to educate
Hmm.
yourself about who you are, how you experience life on a
Hmm.
day-to-day basis,
Hmm.
and what you can do, right, to do a deeper dive
Right.
into accessing your own feeling states. It's healthy for us to reflect on who we are,
Hmm.
what we're feeling, what's the experience that I had today,
Hmm.
and how is that going to impact me
Yeah.
tomorrow and long term as
Right.
well. And you know, the other book that has been published is the
Read,
journal
reflect.
book,
Yeah.
which does actually that, all right?
Hmm.
It facilitates access to your feeling states on a day to day basis
Hmm.
so that you can do a better job of educating yourself on the fact that you are human,
Right.
that you do have feelings, and
Right.
that it's important to be able to access them, to be able to name them.
Hmm.
Most guys have access maybe to 4 or 5 words that are feeling words, right?
I
They're
feel like
mad, they're sad, they're happy, they're irritated, they're pissed. They've got a very long list
those
of
are the clean
those
words.
three negative words.
Those are the clean words.
Yeah.
Those are the clean words. You know, sometimes all at once.
Right.
You know,
Lots of people think the same thing, but you're capable of much more.
do you find it through your years of practice that it was better to have, you know, in person? I know you do everything online for the most part
I do
now.
everything online
Yeah,
now. And, you know, COVID brought that
yeah,
into reality. I don't think it would ever have
yeah.
happened
Oh my
without
goodness.
COVID, even with the advancement, all right,
Okay.
all of the things that you can do with a computer.
Yeah,
Without COVID, I don't think it ever would
yeah,
have happened. But it gives you a broader reach. You miss things, right? So I can't see the bottom part of your body,
yeah,
right? I see you from about here
yeah.
up. So I don't know what you're doing with your hands. I don't know what you're doing with your feet. But what you're doing with your
Engaging? Are you?
mind,
Yeah,
it is important, right? So if I were having you in a therapy session based on something you said, I might stop and
uh-huh.
ask, you know, I can't see the rest of your body, but, you know, what are you doing with your hands?
Yeah,
Or what's happening with your feet? How are your
yeah,
legs feeling right now? I want access
yeah,
to the body,
yeah,
but I can't get it,
yeah.
right, unless I have you sit some
Right,
distance away
from a distance
from
apart.
the camera. But the advantage to this online work is that more adults will actually access therapy
Right.
because they don't have to leave work, right? Drive
Yeah,
an hour to an office, spend an
yeah.
hour with a therapist, drive an hour back
Right.
to work, right? In fact, they'll take a break at work,
Right. They can
right?
go on
And
their
go out
lunch.
to
Yeah.
their car,
Yeah.
right? And access a therapist.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have put themselves into therapy
Yeah.
before. I'm convinced that they would not have done it.
Right.
But with the use of online therapy, they'll take the risk
It's
and they'll
wonderful.
try it.
It's wonderful. And unfortunately, you know, out of bad events, sometimes good things happen because a lot more people realize they needed help than, you know,
That's right.
that
Mhm.
was a once in a generation, you know, catastrophe that took place.
Right. That's
So
right.
do you? Is there anything that we haven't talked about that certainly you want to get a chance to speak on? Because I feel like, to encompass 50 years of your practice, in a short interview doesn't do justice to everything that you've accomplished and will continue to.
Well, I just want to encourage people to take themselves seriously
Hmm.
and to recognize that nurturing themselves isn't just putting food in your body,
Yeah.
right? That nurturing yourself is also understanding yourself emotionally and psychologically. And you can do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you can do that easily
Yeah.
now. And it can have a tremendous benefit for you as an individual and for everybody that you interact with. So take yourself seriously, be interested, be curious, and dive into figuring yourself out. If you need to start just with the journal book,
Hmm.
start with the journal book.
Is it? Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of a lost art to do that, right? Because now, like,
yeah,
actually putting your emotions in pen to paper, right? Is
right,
there's nothing that you can old school it, so to speak.
right. And the advantage of the Read, Reflect, Respond book that I've published is the facing pages are blank.
Oh,
So
wow.
you do not have to respond in words. They're
Right.
blank for a reason, right?
Right.
Because we store information in language, but
Yeah.
we also store information in action
Yeah.
and we store information in feeling tone.
Yeah.
So I can express that on the page,
Yeah.
right? By scribbling, by drawing, by the intensity of the pressure
Yeah.
on the page. And that gives me fuller access
Right.
to how my brain is really reacting to that particular essay.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Where can people find Dr. Gloria Vanderhorst?
You can find me through my website, and
Hmm.
it's www.drvanderhorst.com. So it's www.drvanderhorst.com. And the website is a place that you can book time. It's a place where you can watch some videos. It's a place
It's a
where you
wonderful
can read
website. It's a wonderful one.
blogs.
Yeah,
You've
it's
got
got
access
testimonials and
to a
things. Yeah.
variety of things.
Yeah. I really liked your website a lot too. It really gave like your
Thank you.
history and your educational breakdown and everything like that too. You know,
Thank you.
so it was wonderful. And I this show was always built around people who are subject matter experts in their field. That whether it was a high level entrepreneur, enthusiast, hobbyist, or people that charted their own path. And I think that oftentimes, this even to a degree, this podcast was a great mental health outlet for me because
Good.
to find people who were great in their fields of work and wanted to share it with others. I mean, this is like a living, breathing encyclopedia for me, right? And
Mhm.
Wikipedia, we all love Wikipedia, but this is better than Wikipedia. I'm not saying I have a better product, but for me personally, being able to actually talk to people instead of just doom scrolling is a lot more, a much better opportunity to manifest that curiosity for myself.
That's great.
And it is an honor and absolute pleasure that I got a chance to carve out a time from your busy schedule. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed working with you.
I
It's been
appreciate it.
wonderful.
Thank you very much. And you have a wonderful day and a wonderful holiday season as well, too. Dr. Gloria
Thank you.
Vanderhorst.
Thank you.
Yep. Have a great one.